A reading from the Gospel of John. Jesus said, "If I testify about myself, my testimony is not true. There is another who testifies on my behalf, and I know that his testimony to me is true. You sent messengers to John, and he testified to the truth. Not that I accept such human testimony, but I say these things to you so that you may be saved. He was a burning and shining lamp, and you were willing to rejoice for a while in his light. But I have a testimony greater than John's. The works that the Father has given me to complete, the very works that I am doing, testify on my behalf that the Father has sent me." Jesus speaking about John the Baptist, speaking about himself here in the Gospel of John. I'm not going to lie, the Jesus in John's Gospel can be difficult to the point of tedious sometimes to understand, and I find this passage to be one of those where Jesus is taking us through what feels like a convoluted thought process, but I think cutting through to the heart of it, Jesus is saying something that I think you and I probably know to be true, that it's always more credible if somebody else is saying how tremendously marvelous I am instead of me saying how tremendously marvelous I am. I think sometimes we give a little bit more credence and maybe ought to give more credence if a third party is speaking of anyone. And Jesus is saying, look, you've checked my references, and John has told you that I'm the real deal. But really what Jesus is saying in this passage, for me, what stood out is Jesus is saying, yes, he's testified to me as the real deal, and I am the real deal, and I don't need John to testify to that. He says, my works testify to that. But really what Jesus is saying is, I have a testimony greater than John's. He's not talking about the testimony to himself. He's talking about the one for whom he has come to testify to the one who has sent me, as he says in the Gospel of John, the one who has sent me to demonstrate his love to the world. Jesus is saying, while John is pointing to me, he says, I'm not pointing to me. I'm pointing to the one who sent me. I'm pointing to the one who has created this world in love and who still is coming to this world in love. And he says, I see that you have basked in the light of John, but my light is greater. And he says, there is one whose light is greater still than mine. So good for us to remember in this season of Advent as we are waiting on God to come again into this world in a form we do not yet know exactly, but we know that Jesus has shown us some of what that looks like for God to be incarnate amongst us. And Jesus points to something yet greater than he. So may God give us a sense of hope, anticipation, curiosity, and wondering to whom it is that Jesus is pointing in this portion of John's Gospel. May God give you an inquiring and discerning heart that we've all been given in our baptism. May God continue to strengthen that in you. And may God bless you and keep you this day and always. Amen.